You've been listening to The Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll be back next week with another episode.
Hello and welcome to The Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors. I'm Kellie Barratt and I'm here with the wonderful Mr. Bob Cooke.
Good afternoon.
Hey Bob, are you well?
Yes, I'm very well. I went to the gym today.
Good for you.
I try to go 2 times a week.
Gosh.
And sometimes I do 3, sometimes I do 1, but recently I probably averaged 1 or 2 times. So I just come back from the gym. I quite like it when I get there and do it.
Yeah.
It's quite an achievement.
Yes.
My daughter, who's 26, takes her driving test soon. Anyway, I was helping her in the driving preparation, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've been to your gym, Dad," and I called it the elderly gym. I said, "Why?" "Oh, because it's full of elderly people."
Yeah.
And I can understand that because it costs £60, which is quite a lot of money. I mean, you get a swimming pool, this, that, and the other every month. But she'd gone with a friend. I don't know how she got into it, but she now calls it the elderly club.
Well, I wonder if she's going at the elderly club time, because people who are working will be going before work or after work.
She goes to a club for £18.
Oh, yeah.
And they just have regular sort of stuff. So
yeah. Oh, good for you for getting to the gym. Do you use all the machines? Is that what you're going for?
No, I do some of the machines, and I do just the whole thing sort of plan that I worked out, like push-ups and just various things.
Yeah, excellent. Good to keep moving. All right. Well,
I do a lot of squats.
A lot of
squats.
Great.
I do quite a lot of things, actually. It always takes an hour and a quarter.
Yeah.
I always finish it with a 20-minute bicycle ride.
You bicycle on the road still as well, I notice.
Yeah. Not recently, but tomorrow I will.
Yeah,
I'm going to work tomorrow.
Good for you. I know somebody who does 100 squats while she brushes her teeth.
How old is she?
I'd say she was in late 50s, early 60s.
Wow, that's impressive for that age.
Impressive, yeah.
Well, my Pilates teacher says that she would recommend the squats as the major exercise to do if you did nothing else.
Oh, right. Oh, top tip there. If we were doing a health podcast, that would be a good start, a good way in.
But we are going on to one now, which is about tips.
It is. So we are now on episode 215, and our title for today is 5 tips for working with couples in the therapy process.
Great. I picked this one mainly because I know you're a specialist in this. And I know you see couples.
Yes, I do.
I know you've done some training couples work. So over to you.
Over to me.
You start with your first tip.
Okay.
And I'll go to my second tip, and then we'll do it that way. Maybe they're the same ones, I don't know, but let's see what your first one is.
Yes. So my first tip is about observing all the initial information. So who contacts me first? When they walk in the room, where do they sit? How connected are they? Is one part of the couple doing all the work? Is the other bit and not as active? So that's as they enter and we've done the initial meeting. That's my first bit of information.
It's like what you think about is who takes the lead,
who
actually perhaps stays behind a bit more.
More
assertive, who's more passive, things like that.
Yes.
And like where they sit, do they sit next to each other in a settee? Do they sit in the separate chairs?
Yes.
And it's those sorts of things.
Yes. And if they're online, I prefer them on the same screen, but some couples are in different places, so they're on different screens. So that's not ideal. But all of that kind of initial information I'm gathering from the very first point of contact.
Of course, and again, I know you're transaction analysis trained, and people who listen to this podcast will know you are. So I think when you're, say, gathering information,
Mm.
TA terms, that would mean script analysis.
Yes, yes,
That's what you mean in a way.
yes. Yeah, I'm starting that. Yeah, from.
Starting out there.
Mm.
So I don't think comes from TA particularly, but does that also mean thinking about contact? Who's more contactable
Yes,
with
yes.
people? And who
Yeah,
keeps out of contact? Things like
yes, yeah. And yeah, who's more often part of the couple is quite withdrawn, and one person's been trying to, get the wheels moving for a while, trying to get them into therapy. So they might have been in a pretty stuck place for quite a long time.
How interesting.
Mm.
Okay, so my first tip, which is probably similar to what you've said, but it's a bit different, perhaps. But I'm sure you think this as well, though you've named your first one. This, I think of how can I explain this? How they communicate from an ego state model.
Yes.
In other words, so what I mean by that is who takes the parent
Mm.
communication and who takes the child communication,
Mm.
and where's the adult in all this? So
Yeah.
I think of transcend. I use the major model of personality model of transaction analysis as parent, adult, child to think transactionally
Hmm.
which ego state people come from
Mm.
in the conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
So I would always think that way. And in all relationships, healthy and unhealthy, people have their own um, ego state medium of communication.
Yes.
So some may take the parent role more, some may take the child role more. Sometimes there might be adult to adult communication. However, when communication breaks down,
Hmm.
it's interesting to see uh, whether the ego state model has something to offer there. And it usually has in terms of maybe one person gets stuck in the parent ego state and somebody gets stuck in the child ego state, and whether they are mixed up with what we call cross transactions or complementary transactions or ulterior transactions for TA people listening. Um, so I bring, I think, TA thinking into the process when I'm first working with couples.
Yeah, me too. And I talk to them about the how we invite ego state. So if I move into my parent, I'm going to invite the other into their child. So
Mm, mm,
I do talk to them about that at some point. So they're aware that actually it's not just that it's one person. I think couples can quite easily jump into the blame game, and I like to not. Well, that's one of my points actually. So I'll not move into that now. But it's quite easy to blame the other partner.
mm. It's easy using TA language again to go from I'm okay to you're okay position.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. So, what's your second tip?
Oh, yes. These aren't in any kind of particular
No,
order.
no, it doesn't have to be any linear order. I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
interested.
yeah. So another one of mine is not to let the couple start arguing.
Oh, tell me more about that and how
Yes.
to stop them arguing.
So I'm quite clear from the very beginning that if a couple moves into that the same old argument, round and round and round we go, and they will get nowhere, and they will waste their money and their time, and we won't achieve anything. So I'm very clear from the beginning. So not to blame, not to be arguing, and to not talk over each other. So there's plenty of time, plenty of space for each member of the couple to talk.
Mm. So, what do you suggest they do instead? So, I understand what you're saying,
Mm,
but maybe there's a repetitive theme that they keep bringing over and over and over again.
mm,
A bit like games in TA
yes. Yeah.
doesn't actually go
Mm,
anywhere, but it's usually a negative payoff.
mhm.
And arguing, you said as well. So, do you talk about what they is important for them to do instead? I hear
Instead.
what you say in terms of what they should stop doing,
Mm.
what would you encourage them to do instead of that?
So when I say stop arguing, I mean in the session with me. So
Oh,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I
yes.
believe that. Yeah.
So well, not obviously, but often, the arguments will still continue at home. But so that we stop. So we stop, and everyone takes a breath,
Yeah.
and each person is to own. I like the couple to own what's happening for them. So then
Mm.
they say how things are for them. So rather than you did blah, it's more like I feel this. And so if everyone starts owning their own stuff, we've got a little bit more space and leverage to step out of that. So
So what you try and encourage is for each of the pairing to take ownership of their part in the process.
yes, yeah,
And what happens if they don't? What I mean by that, if they say something like, well, actually, it's all to do with her, all to do with him, or all to do with X.
yeah.
Do you step in, or do you just allow them to? What happens next?
So then, which will bring me on to one of my third points, is that I would talk to them about all relationships are co-created. So
Okay, you carry on with the third one. I can
yeah.
do 2 and 3 in a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. So I would say, I do say that no one is, it's not the good and the goodie and the baddie in the relationship. We co-create it. So we absolutely are in this together. And I describe it a bit like when stags are rutting and they've got their antlers and the
Yeah.
antlers lock and they can't find a way out, and so that the argument is the way to let them out. But the aim of our work is to stop getting to the point where the antlers lock, so that it's not that they have to argue to get out of it, that we avoid the argument in the first place. So each part recognizing their invite to the other
Mm.
into the argument, and who steps into that parent or child first, or maybe I'm talking about the drama triangle with them, but I'm absolutely getting each member of the relationship, of the couple rather, to own their part for sure.
That's wonderful. So I really like that. My second one is really I sort of follow on from the first, what I was talking about. I'm using ego state model to explain what's happening in communication problems. Well, my second one is to explain what Eric Berne called life positions or existential positions. In
Yes.
other words, Eric Berne, 1961, originator of transaction analysis,
Mhm.
came up with the idea, which isn't new at all. I mean, it goes back to many of the existential thinkers, that we come from 4 existential positions in life, which determines how we act, think, and behave.
Mm.
And he put them on a quadrant, actually, which was called the the OK Corral.
Mm.
Well, actually, he didn't come up with the OK Corral. Somebody, Frank Ernst, did, which is a later TA theorist. But he
Mm.
did talk about the life positions,
Mm.
which are I'm okay, you are okay, which is the most healthy position. I'm okay, you're not okay, which is really not a healthy position either, which is, more like the paranoid position, if you like, judging other people, etc., etc. Then there's I'm not okay, you are okay, which is more
Mhm.
like the withdrawn schizoid implosion position. And then there's the worst position of all, if you want to have worst in the story. I'm okay and sorry, I'm not okay and you're not okay. So both parties aren't okay, and both if we're in those positions, it could lead to homicide or implosion. So when I'm thinking of couples, I'm thinking about what existential positions and life positions determine the way they act, think, and feel in couples.
Mm.
And I teach them that.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So when they're actually transacting
Mm.
communicating, which of the existential positions or life positions are they most likely to come from? Is it that they might take positions under stress of I'm not okay and you're not okay, or I'm okay and you're certainly not okay, or under stress, what's their favorite position? Because Bert argued that we don't necessarily stay in one life position throughout the whole of our communication patterns with people. We move around them. Yeah, from I'm not okay, etc. But under stress, we have a favorite position.
Yes.
So under stress, what position are they most likely to move into? Would it be I'm okay, you're not okay, which is more of a paranoid, explosive position, or could lead to harming others, people, for example, could lead to homicide, for example. These are extreme, but certainly lead to intimidating people. Or under stress, are they likely to move to another position, like I'm not okay, you are okay, or I'm not okay and you're not okay either. So who is okay around here? So which position are they like? And I would teach them that, and I'd also look at in the room how they enact that out under stress. Now, they may not be under stress in the actual therapy room, but I'd be interested to find out under stress, maybe when they leave the therapy room, which is the position that is their most favorite corner that they might gravitate to, and look at how that complicates or aids, which won't usually aid it, but communication. Usually the communication is broken down because the people have moved to existential life positions, which they adopted early in childhood, and it doesn't help now.
And do they get that? When you explain it to them, the couple, do they understand it and can see it?
Yeah. So I do quite a lot of what I call educative therapy.
Yes.
So I'll teach them the model TA as a personal model, because I want them to know about, which or think about their transactional dialogue as a couple.
Yeah.
Are they more likely to move to parent to child, likely to be an adult to adult, likely to be in child to child, or are they likely to be in parent to parent competition? And under stress, which is their favorite transactional dialogue. And I also teach them existential positions as well, to get them to reflect and think about this. And I often give them homework.
Yes. And did they do it? Or did they do it?
Actually, couples do it far more than individuals do. And I think that's one reason why couples work is much shorter.
Yes.
Because they do have homework and they do go it, and usually they do it. If they don't do it, I'd be interested what ego state they were in to sabotage the process.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
So the third one, and again, this isn't in linear order, but I do this as an individual, so I suppose it's not exclusive to couples.
Yeah.
But I'll always be interested, and I think you are the same when you said in tip number 1, I'll always be interested how they might sabotage themselves in the couple's work with me.
Yes.
Or in life. How might they sabotage themselves resolving this?
Yeah.
How might they sabotage themselves having a healthy communication with their partner? And if they say they don't know, I usually ask them to, just experiment with your imagination.
Yes.
Think how they might sabotage it.
Yeah. And is that, do you find that clients answer that easily?
Yeah. Yeah. You see, when people say they don't know, it's a blocking transaction.
Yeah.
They may not know consciously, but if you ask them to fantasize, I usually say imagination, they go straight into it.
Yes. Yeah, I say just guess. Well, just guess.
Same
answer.
thing. Yeah. And so I'm always interested how they may sabotage themselves from, in the process of getting a healthy relationship. And with that, I always ask, well, what's the cost?
Yes. Yes.
in the relationship. So if you do change this behavior, one of you or both of you, what's the cost for you to do this? Because if there wasn't a cost, I wouldn't be seeing them.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a reason why they aren't communicating healthily. So I asked that question pretty early on.
Yeah.
Favorite one, they come back with you did. Oh, he or she doesn't listen. They don't listen to me. They just don't know me. They don't understand me. And often that blaming that you're talking about. So on the subject of educative therapy again, I see this might go into a fourth tip, and actually wasn't a fourth tip, but anyway, that I was thinking, because I've got two more. I teach them stroke theory.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Me too.
Positive strokes for people wanting to TA it is about positive recognition, verbal and nonverbal. Unit of positive recognition, verbal and nonverbal. And, couples often, how can I explain this? Let go or lose sight of giving positive strokes to their partner.
Yeah.
And so when I say, well, let's just practice then, say something positive to your partner. If you don't want to do it, you can go home and do it at homework. Often they say, oh, well, I'll do it in homework. So then I'll say, okay, I'd like you to, in the next 7 days, make sure at least once a day you say some positive a stroke to your partner.
Yeah.
And then they come back and I ask them how they get on. And usually they've not got on well. From one perspective, whatever.
Yeah.
So, because they've fallen out of a pattern to do that, and they've usually fallen out of the pattern because they say things, well, they should know what I want, or
Yeah.
and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So stroke theory is the thing that I think is an important one to teach.
Yes. Yep. I absolutely agree. And I say, a relationship is like a plant. You have to feed it. It needs light and oxygen and food, and don't just let the plant die. You need to keep feeding it, and that's strokes, isn't it? Like we need to keep accounting for our partners.
What's your next one then?
My next one is well, I've got loads here, so I'm just going to choose some. So don't try to save the relationship.
Oh, very, very important.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So it's not my job to save the relationship. It's the relationship might need to end. I don't know. They don't know. Quite often, I find couples come in quite late, and the relationship they've hated each other for quite a few years before they come in. So it's not always a happy ending. Lots of couples come into couples therapy. Yeah, separate. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I think that's a very important one. That the therapist needs to stay in their adult legal state, and I often contract that, by the way. So when they come and they've said, I would like to have some therapy, I say, well, is this about looking at what's problems in the relationship that you want to address so that you both want to stay together, or is this about separation? And quite often people might say, one partner might say they want to stay together, and the person says, I don't know yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comes out of the therapy. But it isn't the duty of the therapist to be invested in one way or the other. No, but because quite often what comes out of the therapy is they choose to not stay together.
Yeah, and quite quickly as well. Sometimes I think some couples come in to just have that bit of support to separate. So within 2 or 3 sessions, they might have decided. It's interesting how often that happens.
It is. Another one that I'll say then, and it's again from TA, so it shows how long in depth I was trained as a TA therapist. And again, I teach this, so I do quite a lot of educative therapy with couples much more than individually, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, scripts.
Yes.
And I think particularly what I always think about what is called in TA, again, interlocking scripts. In other words, how if we take a definition of a script as an unconscious life plan, it's those early plans we make as a kid, often unconsciously, about the life, the world, ourselves, and other people. Now, the bit is, how does the script of the other person, how do they interlock? How do they come together or don't? Usually they interlock in some ways, otherwise they probably wouldn't even be together in the first place. So where do they come together or don't is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And often one of my major questions that I might ask in a effort for me to, and the person and the people in front of me, to look at how the early developmental plans from a person's history may collide or not in the relationship, is to say to the people, okay, are your parents alive? So X, are your parents alive? Yes. B, is your parents alive? Yes. Well, let's just imagine we're going to put them in a room together. How would they get on?
Oh, great question.
That's one of my favorite questions.
I'm going to nick that.
You can nick it as much as you like. And then X says, oh, well, I actually think whatever, the two couples wouldn't get on. Why wouldn't get it? And then I explore how come that you think they wouldn't, or they would get on.
Yeah.
Invariably, interestingly, they wouldn't get on. And I might explore, well, what does that mean, and what does that mean for our relationship today? If they say they would get on, then I explore that as well, and I ask both partners the same question.
Yeah.
And that'll give me some information, new information bit about the influences from the past and how they affect the present, and how those decisions from both people impacts the relationship. Now that becomes very important when kids are involved.
Yes.
I mean, it gets important anyway.
Yeah.
When kids are involved, then we might have different parenting styles, which is one of the problems that actually come with.
Yes, it's common, isn't it? Yeah. But that question, to just dive straight in, it kind of cuts through a lot of the flowery stuff. It's just in.
It's a great question. Usually the couples really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because they haven't thought about it. They might have thought a bit about, they've got baggage and this, that, the other, but they perhaps haven't thought about it so acutely.
Yes. Yeah.
And it often speeds the therapy up, actually.
Yes, I bet.
And they start thinking about, maybe what they brought in from the respective, developmental histories as a part here.
Yeah. And do you just talk about that, or do you diagram it?
No, I talk about it.
Just talk about it.
Very rarely diagram. I might diagram the parent, adult, child as a personality model, but all the other things, having said that, I have diagrammed existential positions, but I don't diagram script.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Yeah, it's too.
That question sort of illustrates it very quickly.
Yeah, that's a great question, Bob. I'm absolutely going to use that on all my couples now. On all of them.
I don't know where I got it from. I think I probably made it up, actually, to tell the truth, but it was because it seems to me that when people come for therapy, have communication problems, and often it goes back to a developmental issue.
Yeah.
So I always think developmentally. So I'm thinking about it that way.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that I won't give people techniques and homework in the present.
Yeah.
But I like to think about the past.
Yeah. Well, of course, because that's absolutely it's feeding the future, isn't it? So often something from the past is getting in the way.
Feeding the future.
Yeah.
So your fifth tip.
Yeah, so my fifth and final is to not get seduced by one member of the couple. So,
Fantastic.
so,
Fantastic tip.
and for those listeners who won't know what I mean by being seduced, it's the one member of the couple might try to unconsciously manipulate me to be on their side. So things like I always have three-way contact. So it's not just one member of the couple contacting me, and I'm always making sure that both.
In contract.
Yes, yeah. In contact as well. So I have a three-way
Oh,
WhatsApp or a three-way email.
oh wow.
So I don't allow that sideline of relationship to begin. It's always the three of us together. It's never me and just one member of the
Okay,
couple.
so here's a question which always comes from this discussion or this type of discussion,
Yeah,
because I'm the same as you,
yeah.
and then other therapists I've been in supervision with or whatever,
Mm,
or people generally who are interested in therapy will ask this question. Oh, does that mean then that if one of them wants to have an individual session with you
mm.
away from the couple, you wouldn't do it?
Yes, yes. So if yeah, it's really tricky because everyone works differently, do they?
Yes, that's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, so as a general rule, I would say no,
Mm,
but I have done it. So
mm.
if we're really stuck in the work and there's something happening and we're not uncovering it, then I would offer a solo session, but to
Okay.
both of them.
So that's a really interesting one, given your stance about being seduced.
Yes, yes.
Um,
But they would both need to have one.
okay, so to even it up.
Mm.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to come back to that because I want to say something about this. So I try to alleviate this from the beginning.
Mm.
So I will say to people, and this is about contracts, I will say to them, there's different ways therapists work with couples, and I'll explain them. So
Mhm.
some therapists will see you each individually for 4 sessions and then bring you back again.
Yes.
Some therapists might think, oh, well, one partner is so intimidated by the other partner, we need to split them up and then bring them back again.
Mhm.
And then some therapists will simply say, no, we will always work with you as a couple in the room.
Yeah.
And and then I'll say, which one would you prefer? For
Oh.
them, for
Yeah.
them. Invariably,
Mm.
they'll say, we'd like to stay together.
Mm.
In my experience, there have been times where one person feels so intimidated they say, "Oh no, I'd like to at least have some couples." So I'll do the balancing because, like you just said. So different therapists work different ways.
Yeah.
It's the same as in groups.
Mm.
One of the favorite questions when you talk about groups to trainee therapists who want to perhaps run therapy groups is, "Oh, well, is it okay to see a member of the group outside or at the same time as being in the group?"
Mm.
Now, there's advantages and disadvantages, but the biggest disadvantage is splitting.
Yes. Mm.
And it's the same, I think, in couples.
Yeah.
So when you say seduced, I totally agree with you. And I have a different thinking about, well, maybe the same as you, but I always think there's an attempt to seduce
Yeah.
the therapist. This
Yes.
in couples therapy. I don't think it might happen.
Mm.
I think it will always happen unconsciously, and I'll tell you why. Because the therapist becomes the mediating parent,
Yes. Yes.
and
Mm.
both sides want to make sure they mediate on their side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there will be an attempt to seduce the
Mm.
therapist, I think, always.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wonderful tip to think about, and to think about when this is happening, and say one person does want a therapy session, what you do and don't do about it,
Yeah.
because it will always come.
Yes. I'd say no generally I'd say 99.9% of the time no. And if they need, and so I'm very clear, if it's individual therapy, we need to find you another therapist, or the clients need to find one. Because I get asked a lot, can I can I be in individual therapy with you? I was like, no, because I can never, I can only be your couples therapist.
Yeah.
If we were to move into
Good.
individual therapy, you can never come back in as a couple, ever,
Where
ever.
you have those. And
Mm.
here's the next question. So couples come to see you,
Hmm.
and one of them's already got her own therapist individually. The other
Yeah,
one never been in therapy before.
yeah.
What do you do, Kelly?
So oh, that's a great question. So would encourage the other one to get some individual therapy if they can afford it, because so they've got some support and somewhere to take stuff from the couples therapy if needed. I would make sure that me and the person in therapy don't become, we're not kind of getting into therapy speak about,
I'll help you out.
oh, yes,
What
please
happens?
do.
I don't accept it, by the way.
Oh, do you not?
No.
Oh,
I'll tell you why.
hmm.
Um, because what will always happen,
Yeah.
person without therapist will feel ganged up
Yes,
with
that's it.
the
Yeah.
other one.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
explain why I won't.
Mm.
I'll say, look, I'd really like to take you on, but this is what will happen
Mm.
unconsciously or consciously.
Yeah.
One of you, the person that's hasn't got any therapy,
Yeah.
will feel ganged up unconsciously, even
Mm.
if the therapist goes out of the way to not hope this doesn't happen. So I then turn them away. Well, actually, what I do is I refer them on, and then
Mm.
I'll add. And usually, couples therapists will say the same thing that I've said to you. Now,
Yeah.
not all couples therapists would send you away.
Mm.
Some might work in an imbalanced way, because I
Mm.
think it is.
Yeah.
And I think we're in enactment and history. Um, so I'm very clear on that.
It's a really valid point, actually. Yeah, that they might feel ganged up on.
And people who are listening to me, couples therapists or not, may feel I'm being quite an abhorrent here, another very boundary. But my experience is that when I've not, when I've taken, when I've laxed this, I have, it's never worked.
Yes, yeah. So you've had experience of it. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I've not yet, so I'm going to think about that. So
mm.
because that sounds like a really important point. But I guess, I'm imagining couples, it's a lot of time and a lot of money to be paying for individual and couples therapy. So
Well, that's what often gets people
mm,
say back to me, well, I can't afford it.
yeah,
I say usually something like this, well, some things are priceless.
yeah, yeah.
So it's an interesting word. And finally, before the podcast ends, I don't know how many minutes we've got, but I
Yeah.
don't think we can talk about couples therapy without talking about the concept of symbiosis.
Oh, yes.
Now,
Yeah.
symbiosis for people, again, who perhaps don't know what it means or know what the word symbiosis means from the biological field,
Mm,
where two organisms act as one.
yeah.
And that's in the biological. In the psychological field, it's the same thing. It's where two people act as one person.
Mm,
And often when people get caught up in an unhealthy symbiosis, not a healthy one, by the way, because, lots of couples work with healthy symbiosis, but unhealthy symbiosis, it's when one person's self-agency has been taken away by the other person's.
mm. So two people share one set of ego states.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
So it's when one person's taken away the self-agency of the other person, so the other person is so adapted, they just go along with behaviorally and emotionally what the other person's sense of reality is.
Mm. So a bit codependent.
Well, that's a very good word for it. In an American terminology, a codependent relationship. And it's very important for couples therapists to look out for a codependent or symbiotic relationship
Mm.
because they're unhealthy.
Yes. We become symbiotic. We have lots of sex for a few years, and then we're supposed to separate back out and
Mm.
move through all of the other developmental stages. So if a couple's still in that very early stage, then they're stuck.
They will be stuck, and communication on other levels will break down.
Yes, yes.
We should really have a couples two podcast.
Yes, yes.
I think, God, I'd love to talk about this 5 more tips. I'm sure we've gone over the half an hour.
We absolutely have, actually. Yeah, way over. And I'm thinking we've probably done 10 tips. I might change the title.
I don't know if we've done 10, but I think we should have a couples 2 sometime.
Yes. Okay, yes, I think that would be great, Bob. I've really enjoyed this podcast. Thank you for talking to me about it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your expertise.
Likewise. And so our next week's podcast will be number 216, and that is going to be working with the disconnected self in therapy.
Wow, that's a very important subject. So I look forward to talking about that.
Me too. See you next time, Bob.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll be back next week with another episode.